This is DPR Radio. Hello and welcome to Delinquent Public Radio. And this is your host, Johnny Mittens. I'm here today with the dapper author, writer, book creator, literary mastermind of The Great Gatsby, F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Johnny. It's great to be on the show.
So tell me, what was your inspiration to write this classic novel?
Well, you see, while I was attending Princeton University, a lot of my classmates were very well off, myself included. While growing up, I experienced poverty, and even while attending Princeton in New Jersey, I saw the obvious class separation between the rich and the poor. This struck me, and I wanted to write about it.
What about the actual story? How'd you come up with that?
Well, I thought of it in a dream, actually. I definitely resonate the most with Nick, just the silent observer. I created Jay Gatsby based on a real-life bootlegger friend of mine named Max Gerlach. Gatsby is a person who is extremely insecure, and this is why he wants to hide his poor past. I resonate with this too. At Princeton, I would never mention how my father was fired, and we were poor for some time during my childhood.
So tell me, how did you think of Daisy and the love story between her and Gatsby?
When creating Daisy, I really just had to describe my own experience with a former lover. As a matter of fact, whenever I think of Daisy's character, I picture her in my mind.
Oh, that's really interesting. So some of my listeners are interested to know why the book is told from the perspective of a separate character from Gatsby, despite the fact that Gatsby is the main character.
Well, you see, I had this idea of making Gatsby a mysterious character whose story is slowly unraveled throughout the course of this book, and that's just not possible in a first-person narrative. Also, Gatsby is clearly a superficial person, what with how much he flaunts his wealth and such. So, what better way to show his superficiality from an outsider looking in?
Very true, good point. So tell me, did you ever meet people in Princeton that were as superficial as Gatsby?
Yes, of course. As a matter of fact, the character Tom Buchanan was basically a physical manifestation of most of the people I knew during my time in college. Womanizers, alcoholics, you name it. What's really interesting about Tom is that although he drinks copious amounts of alcohol, he still looks down upon Gatsby for selling it, which makes him a hypocrite as well.
I noticed that while I was reading my own copy at home. Oh, that's right, I had a question about the lavish parties as well. Why is it that Gatsby threw all these events, yet he never really attended them? What's the point, you know?
Right, well, you see, I always pictured it as Gatsby was really just trying to draw attention to himself, yet he wanted to remain anonymous at the same time. The only person he really wanted to notice him was Daisy, and he wanted to hide from everyone else.
So why have the parties and not just invite Daisy over?
Well, Daisy's married, of course. Gatsby might seem like a sleazebag, but he is still a gentleman. How else could he gain the attention of a married woman without courting her and disrespecting Tom?
I guess he couldn't. I never thought about it like that before. We have time for one more question. After all is said and done, what do you want people to get out of reading this book?
I want them to see the class divide between the common man and those who are incredibly wealthy. Also, I'd like my readers to see just how superficial others can be and how little material possessions really mean.
Just wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Fitzgerald. It was a pleasure to have you on the show.
No problem, Johnny. Thanks for having me.
Up next on Delinquent Public Radio, an English teacher who thinks all kids have cooties. Stay tuned.
What?
Yeah.